Asleep, my mind plays it all back in fragments and dreams. From time to time, a block of nerves wakes. That's some kind of arm weapon. Move it, too late. My head rolls loose on black sand. Bones shattered, ribs and spine. Fear worse than the agony fading, and I'm gone. Now, just a quick warning, this story is not told in chronological order. Hopefully it's not too confusing. I tried to put it in chronological order and there was just no tension left in the story. So, here we go. We find Beowulf waking up in an advanced autodock created by Carlos Wu. He emerges to find himself stranded on a small deserted island on the planet Faffner. A world of mostly ocean, but in these shallow oceans live life forms that build coral-like structures. Some of these create islands, and on one such island is where we find Beowulf. Beowulf has flashes of memories as he searches the small island. He finds nothing on it but a headless skeleton. He was in the autodock for 4 months, about the same age as the skeleton appeared to be, stripped of all flesh by the local life. After a few days, he sees a ship passing nearby, and he swims out to meet it. They save him before he dies of hypothermia in the chilly waters, and take him back to civilization. He had been traveling with his family, as well as Carlos Wu and his new wife, Feather. She was the cause of it all. Feather, the arm agent. She had been assigned to protect Dr. Carlos Wu and to keep an eye on him. He knew too much after the last incident with Dr. Julian Forward and his primordial black hole. He was one of the few people alive that even knew that primordial holes existed, let alone how to weaponize them. But Feather seemed to fall for Wu, so she started to tell him things. Secrets of the arm, what they do to people that know too much and have too loose of lips. She convinced him that he needed to flee Earth's grasp, that she would defect with him. She was very convincing. But Wu knew that Beowulf was also at the station. He might not be a scientist, but he knew enough that he could work with a scientist to replicate Dr. Forward's work. If he was in danger, then so was Beowulf, so he insisted to Feather that he be taken too. But Cheryl, Beowulf's wife, was a flatphobe. She had a phobia of leaving Earth. She couldn't just go to any world. She would have a never-ending panic attack if the place was too strange. So because of that, they chose the planet Home, the most Earth-like of all the colony worlds. But since that would be the obvious choice for any flatphobe, they were going to get there in a somewhat paranoid and roundabout way. They would stop by Faffner while keeping the children and Cheryl in frozen hibernation. And so that they could not be tracked, they used a stealth ship to leave their transit ship before it landed, and they themselves landed on a deserted island. The plan was to inflate a boat and travel to the nearest civilization to use a transfer booth so that they could get on a ship headed for home even before their transit ship landed, thereby making tracking them almost impossible. How could they leave before they landed? But those plans all fell apart on the island as they tried to load the frozen family members onto the boat. Beowulf had just awakened Cheryl from her suspended sleep in the autodock. She seemed to be doing okay for the moment, probably because of all the sleep chemicals still in her system. But if things went bad, then they could always put her back in the autodock. For the moment, they needed her out of it so that they could load it onto the boat. This way, she could help instead of almost literally being dead weight inside of it. This is when, without warning, Feather blasted a hole through Beowulf's chest the size of a watermelon. His head almost completely detaching from his body. As his eyes lost focus, he saw Carlos heading for the boat, with the children already loaded aboard. Feather worked for the Arm because she was a paranoid schizophrenic. They liked that. The Arm, United Earth's version of the CIA, preferred their workers to be paranoid rather than complacent. But since they had left Earth, Feather had been off her meds. And while she wanted Dr. Wu for his amazing genes, she had no actual use for Beowulf. So in her paranoia, she had killed him. 4 months later, he woke up on that same beach in the autodock, over a foot shorter than he had been, with no boat, no family, and no Feather, just a headless corpse on the beach. Once he made it back to civilization, he searched for any sign of anyone else being picked up or any messages. What he found was that the alias Cheryl was using had been rescued about 4 months earlier, so she had not spent much time on that island. Maybe she had swum away to escape Feather. Carlos had left a message for Feather, but there were no other messages. Beowulf swindled a desk worker to let him see the message from Carlos to Feather. It was a coded message, basically saying that he had the kids and he would give her whatever she wanted for Cheryl. He clearly thought that Beowulf was already dead. But he made it look like they were just having a family squabble with the way he worded it. So Beowulf put the pieces together about what happened after he was shot. Carlos must have gotten to the boat and gotten away with the kids before Feather could catch him. Feather must have been planning on using Cheryl as a ransom to get him back at that point, but Feather didn't know that Cheryl had grown up in an underwater city. She could swim like a fish, so she must have swam away and found a boat that had rescued her. That left Feather abandoned and without any leverage, so she took Beowulf and stuck him in the autodock. If he lived, he could be her leverage. There was just one problem. The autodock was made for Carlos Wu, who was 5'10" tall. Beowulf was 7 feet tall due to being born and raised on We Made It. So to get Beowulf in the machine, she must have finished the job she started and cut Beowulf's head off the rest of the way to place it in the autodock. No wonder why it had taken 4 months to fix him. And that also explained why he was only 5'10" now. Beowulf had always been a gambler, so without knowing what to do next, he took a chance. It would cost him basically nothing, and at worst, would just waste some time. He rigged his transfer booth card to randomly teleport him every 1.5 seconds. Elevators led to the roof. Admissions was here, and a line of the big transfer booths, and a transparent roof with an awesome view up into the sea forest. I stepped into a booth and inserted my card. The random walk began. A shopping mall, high up above a central well. Booths in a line. Just inside a big waterlock. A restaurant. Another. An apartment building. I was jumping every second and a half. Nobody noticed me flicking in. Would they notice how quickly I flicked out? Nobody gets upset at the random walks unless the kids do it often enough to tie up circuits. But they might remember an adult. How long before someone called the police? A dozen Kazinti lying about in cool half-darkness, gnawing oddly shaped bones, rolled into a defensive 4-footed crouch at the side of me. I couldn't help it. I threw myself against the back wall. I must have looked crazed with terror when the random walk popped me into a Celerico Omni Center. I was trying to straighten my face when the jump came. Hey! A travel terminal of some kind. I turned and saw the dirigible, like an under-pressured planet, before the scene changed. Her! Behind a thick glass wall The seaweed forest swarmed with men and women wearing fins. Farmers picking spheres that glowed softly in oil-slick colors. I waited my moment and snatched my card out of the slot. Was it really? I tapped quickly to get an instant billing, counted 2 back along the booth numbers. I couldn't use the jimmied card for this, so I'd picked up a handful of coins. Her? So we found Cheryl living in a place much like where she had been raised, in an underwater city. It was how she had dealt with her flatlander phobia. She was on another planet, but it was more like her home than many Earth cities. She explained to Beowulf what had happened. In her mounting anxiety at being woken up off Earth, she had been gripping her survival tools, fidgeting with them. That's when it happened. The bang, and then Beowulf falling over backwards, and Carlos running for the boat, with Feather chasing after him. She had been standing on the shore, screaming at Carlos, when Cheryl had come up behind her and slit her throat for what she had done to the love of her life. Cheryl had not thought about it, she had just done it, in an anxiety-fueled rage and panic. But Beowulf...
I couldn't lift your body. And you wouldn't fit anyway, so I had to cut off your...
She pulled close and tried to push her head under my jaw, but I wasn't tall enough anymore.
Head. I cut as low as I could. Tange, we're the same height. Did it work? Are you all right?
I'm fine, I'm just short. The doc rebuilt me from my DNA from the throat down, but it built me in Faffner gravity. Good thing, too, I guess. So since Cheryl had already started a bit of life here on Faffner, they decided not to continue on to Planet Home. Instead, they would have Carlos bring the kids back to Faffner. Eventually. For now, Cheryl was pregnant again, and this time it was not by Carlos Wu. Hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you staying this long, and since you did, hopefully that means you like my channel. So I'd really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe, so I can see you back here for the next one. Take care.